But even with openness, it's openness to what? So the awareness and consciousness is where it all starts. So you need to be aware and conscious as to what you are all about before you start to relate to yourself or to others in any way. You need to know what your inner narrative is, your inner dialogue is, what your thoughts and patterns are. And the only way to do that is start to engender that openness and that self-compassion, and just don't beat yourself up. I mean, whatever is there, it might be ugly, it may be toxic, it might make you quite sad, but just acknowledge it, but try not to waste any time in beating yourself up, because it adds just more onto your emotional burden that you don't need.
Today's guest is my dear friend, Michael Mayhee, a seeker, adventurer, open book, storm, ocean and life coach from Barbados in the Caribbean, and has been living in the UK for 12 years. Came here due to marriage and family and has 2 sons, 14 and 25. Michael spent the first 25 years of his life in and under the ocean and roaming and adventuring the ocean and coast of Barbados mainly, and many other amazing destinations around the world. Moving to the UK has started coaching, and his vibe is to share and support, to be impactful and to be present in this life, in this creation, to bring awareness and unite to the community and to the world. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for the long intro. And I know it's kind of a few emotions that represent, and words that represent, who I am and where I'm at. So nice to be here. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Excited for our conversation. There's a lot going on here. Right. So what is, after reading that, one of the most courageous things you have done?
Courageous things. That's actually quite a big question, and I think there are 2 standout moments for me, and one was when I was very young, and one was when I was much older. And I used to have a lot of nightmares when I was a child, probably like around 8 years old or something like that. I was never a great sleeper, very restless and overactive imagination and lots of thoughts and wondering this and trying to figure out this. And I had a reoccurring nightmare where there were some heavy thundering, footsteps coming down the corridor, coming up to my bedroom, like boom, 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 coming on. I had this nightmare quite often, and it was just basically hide under the covers. Whether it was semi-asleep, semi-awake, however I did it, but I hid away from it until it went away. And then one night I just thought, I can't keep hiding. So I threw off the covers and I went to my door and I opened it and I looked down the corridor to see what it was that was coming. Obviously there was nothing, no one, no apparition, no monster, no nothing coming there. And so seeing that empty space and realizing that fear was all made up in my own mind, that really sort of opened a door in my mind to the whole concept of overcoming fear and facing fear and not letting it stop you from being who you want to be or who you what you want to do. And so that was my first sort of courageous act, very introspective act, nothing that you could actually but it happened. It was very significant to me. And then later on, as I changed careers, and then we could get to this story later on, but later on when I got into from recreational diving instructor into becoming an industrial commercial diver here in the UK. Just my first courageous step was actually admitting to myself when later on when I became a coach and we were going through some self-discovery moments with my class, admitting to my peers and my colleagues and lots of strangers that I actually wasn't happy with my career choice. I wasn't happy within my life, and there were lots of things and frustrations that went wrong. And admitting that openly in front of a group in a seminar was a big sort of emotional, courageous moment for me. So those two moments would be what sticks in my mind when you ask me what's the most courageous things I've done.
Wow, that sounds really brave of you at that age to face out in the corridor to find out what this was. And even at such a young age, that was really brave of you to do that. So well done. Because,
Yeah, I mean,
at that
I
age.
couldn't figure out any other way to do it. There was nobody else that could help me with it.
Mm,
My mom and my dad, and my brother was always
hmm
just say, "Oh, don't worry about it. Your nightmare will go away." But it wasn't going away
hmm
until like literally, kind of you're back against the wall. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go forward and deal with it. So yeah.
So that's fantastic. Well done. So tell me more about your life roaming the seas, the adventurous coast of Barbados. It sounds absolutely fantastic. And oh, would love to go to Barbados. Just put that out there.
Yeah, it's an
So
amazing
yeah,
place. And
sounds
I mean, I left
fantastic.
Barbados 12 years ago, but we still have a home
Okay.
there. Which when I do
hmm
go back yearly or twice yearly with my sons, or depending on who's around, I go back. So I still have a base there. My
hmm
mom and dad are still there. They're very much alive and well most of the time. My brothers are there as well. So I still have a big, a real
hmm
foundation and a base in Barbados. But yeah, my
Yeah.
from that moment of looking down the corridor, that sense of adventure was really cemented in me and grounded in me. This ability to face and to be excited. I mean, someone said, I heard one of my coaches years ago said that the difference between um, fear and excitement is exhaling,
Mm. Oh.
that really stuck with me because and I can really connect with that, because if you hold everything in, all of these sort of the possibilities and the thoughts and the desires and the options that you have, if you hold it in, it turns into sort of a, I don't want to call it toxic, but it turns into a kind of a self-defeating hold back. Everything gets held back. And so to not hold back, you just exhale, you just release it, you just do it, so to speak. And so
hmm
that's why I put in roaming the coastline, because when I was never a very consistently good student at school. So I loved what I loved
hmm
in terms of my school, subjects, history and languages and what.
hmm
I loved that, and I stuck around a lot for that. But there was a lot of stuff at school that I found quite tedious and too structured and too false, that I rebelled and resisted again. So I found a lot of freedom in the ocean and the beach and the coastline and just the doing, a lot of adventuring, a lot of doing. So, and that's still the case. When I became a diving instructor, I was about 18 or 19, and I worked on the beach in Barbados for all my life before that, and in between school and holidays and whatnot. And so when I became an
hmm
instructor, I opened my own dive shop when I was about 24, and I ran that dive center for about
Oh
20
wow.
years and taught thousands of people how to scuba dive and interacted with people from all over the world. But as a result of that, I got a real bug for traveling as well. So been to, all over, not all over, but, Thailand and lots of places in
hmm
Asia and Ecuador and Galapagos Islands. So I love roaming, love adventuring, love traveling, love like so-called random meetings of people and incidents and places that just help to kind of, yeah, as I said in my bio, it's about being impactful and sharing. So when I go anywhere, I don't just go
mm
anywhere to. I'm not really. I mean, maybe I go sometimes like I do disrupt maybe a scenario and a place or a situation with my bringing my energies into it, but it's really to share and to be
hmm
impactful, and not just to be pass by and say nothing or do nothing, but to be a part of it, to share it, to add value really to whatever situation I'm in, wherever I'm in, to add some kind of value. And obviously, this is not necessarily always a conscious thing, but on reflection, when you have
hmm
a chance to reflect and you have situations like this or a platform where you get a chance to share, and it gives you motivation to think a little bit and reflect a little bit on who you are and what you're about and why you do what you do. So yeah, ultimately, my sense of adventure takes me, all over.
That's excellent. Yeah. From being a professional diving instructor and helping people under the water to going to a life coach, tell me, how did that move happen? Is that something you found was necessary, or was that from your experiences?
Well, I mean, diving is really most things. The actual tip of the spear is being underwater and taking people diving. But
hmm
when you take it a few steps back, again, it's about meeting people who they share a similar passion to you, which is the ocean, a sense of adventure, and scuba diving or whatever the sport may be that you are the sort of expert in. But it's about meeting people, and connecting with people,
hmm
making them feel safe and secure, seen and heard and acknowledged. And then once you
Mm.
have all of that, then the diving comes in. So it could be whitewater rafting, it could be hang gliding, it could be football, it could be tennis, it could be dancing, singing. Doesn't matter what the actual outcome is, but that first human interaction and connection, that's the thing. And so when I got into scuba diving, I taught water skiing, I taught sailing, but scuba diving was my main thing. So when I got into that for all those years in Barbados, then when I left Barbados to come to the UK, I sort of left that ability to interact with multiple people on a quite a deep, intimate level. And when I say intimate, meaning like not just a superficial hi and goodbye, but more like, I am Mike, and we're going to get into this thing, and I'm going to help you here and keep you safe and make sure you have a good time and have conversations.
Yes.
It's very, very interactive. So when I got into industrial diving, it's not interactive in the same way at all. It's very cold, very dark, very solitary. And I did that for 10 years in the UK, and I lost touch with that, forgive the word, but that juiciness of life that came with the interacting in scuba instructing. The interacting in commercial industrial diving is completely different. So I lost touch with that, made me quite unhappy and frustrated, and felt a bit lost for a long time. So when I was traveling, I was in Indonesia, doing some diving on this remote island, and I met this young lady. She was a psychotherapist by profession, but she's just an individual human being, and she was afraid of diving. So we had a few conversations about diving and about fear and about life generally, quite philosophical chats. Just by the poolside on an afternoon after my diving and stuff, she would be kind of holding back a bit. So after a few chats, she decided she's going to try diving. She went to the dive center where I was doing my diving and learned to dive, got her diving qualifications, and became a really good diver. So she said to me that our chats were so helpful. She was so grateful. She said, you should try coaching. And I didn't know what coaching was, apart from sports coaching or whatever. And so she sent me some links onto what it is and a few of the schools that were based in London. So I just picked one. It was called the CTI, the Coactive Training Institute. And I went and I started my coaching journey from there back in, I think, around 2018. And that's what got me into coaching. And I realized from coaching that you can be a coach in anything. From whatever the sport, whatever the activity, whatever the job title, you can be a coach. You can be that person, that energy, or that space for an individual or for a group that offers grounding, that offers some safety and security, compassion, strength, whatever it is that you need, that individual, that coach can provide. And I was doing the same thing in my scuba instructor days, but without actually acknowledging it fully as that. So yeah, that's what basically got me into coaching, and that's why it sounds like such a big transition from being a diving instructor in the ocean and in the Caribbean to being a coach in the UK. And it is a transition geographically, but in terms of like mentally, spiritually, connectively, emotionally, it's not that big of a jump actually. The language changes
I can
a little
understand
bit,
that.
subject matter changes a little bit, but the interaction and the I'm on your side, I'll make sure you're okay, and how we're gonna. And actually, the scuba instructing was quite limited when you think about it, because I could only help you gain the clarity and the confidence and overcome all that fear up until we got back to the beach. And then when we got back to the beach, we parted company, and that's it. How you actually took that fear and confidence and clarity and happiness and excitement and passion, how you took that into your everyday world, I had no influence over. I had no idea how you're gonna use that to be more impactful in your life. But with coaching, we together can get you there and then directly apply it to a situation, to a job, to an emotional state, to a mindset, to your physicality. Like literally, that is actually a very natural progression. My sort of aim long term would be to offer some kind of retreat where people can come who may have stuck in some area in their life emotionally, looking for happiness, looking for whatever, clarity, confidence, whatever. And we use the diving as a sort of a platform and a medium to open that door. And then we have maybe some classes or some seminars afterwards within the same sort of area or facility, and make it one smooth progression rather than, what I did then to what I do now, kind of with a break, make it seamless, So that's kind of like the dream, the vision
Yeah.
that I would love to be able to achieve. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see how time goes,
Yeah, definitely. And it's about self-discovery. I mean, I can understand and I can hear your passion in that and helping others. That's absolutely fantastic. So tell me more about the kind of people you work with.
I mean, at the moment, my clients are mostly women. We work
Hmm.
in areas of to do with bias and to do with any kind of imposter syndrome or feelings of overwhelm. Obviously there's a lot of injustice in the world in many ways.
Hmm.
So I find working with women, we have a definite goal towards creating that confidence within themselves, so that, I mean, a lot of the women I work with, they're in charge of small teams, so they may manage whatever field. I mean, we've worked in women in creative arts industry, in teaching, in
Hmm.
sort of in tech as well, in diversity and inclusion. But the titles don't really matter that much in terms of sorry, I should say the industry doesn't really matter that much.
Hmm.
But most of these women run a small team of 4 or 5 people who report to them, and they have agendas and outcomes that they need to push and work with. And so it really breaks down to the relationship that you have with yourself as a female in a fairly senior position, how you see yourself, what your role
Hmm.
is, what you want for yourself, and then the ability to relate and connect with your team, and in a way that works. So, individuals come to me with a particular situation that they're stuck in, or they're worried about, or causing them anxiety and stress that's affecting their happiness, and how they live their lives and how they function at work. Because it's all one thing. It's not separate. And then we work on the particular situation, and then most importantly, we work on the person, on the individual, to see where within their emotional state, where within themselves are they need to work on building, and how to build that, and how to then use that strategy from what we've created and put it into practice
Hmm.
on a daily basis.
Oh, that's fantastic. Who would you say, if you had to say one person, is the most influential person in your life?
A good question. I mean, when we have chats with my friends that that I hang out with, that we used to do a lot of martial arts together, and martial arts has been a really interesting sort of I don't want to call it an industry, but an interesting way of life, because you get people who are very physical, but at the same time quite
Hmm.
spiritual into one. All of that to say, the reason why I say that is because we were having a conversation recently, and one of my friends asked me that, because the way that he put it, he was like, if you had 3 posters or pictures to put up in your room of influential people, who would they be?
Hmm.
And one of the first ones, I mean, I don't have a picture of my father in my room, but my mom and dad have made a big impact in my life. I mean, it sounds kind of normal, but
Beautiful.
to say that, but they have,
Hmm.
because they're the way that they are as people, they're so deeply curious and so deeply open and non-judgmental, that
Hmm.
they are very, very easy and relaxing to be around. They don't have an agenda per se, when you meet them, apart from, hi, who are you, what are you up to, and this is my experiences, or
Yeah.
what are your experiences, and they're very they don't there's no showing off about their titles or what they've
Hmm.
done. It's just sharing, and they bring their whole selves into their relationships, into their conversations. There's no real hold back. They're very respectful, very polite. So I mean, without
Hmm.
realizing it, I've really they've helped to shape who I am from a very young age. But apart from that, which is again very significant, but they are. I mean, when I was sharing with you a few of the books I've read that have been really
Yes.
influential and impactful for me, this lady, Brené Brown, who wrote
Hmm.
books about leadership and vulnerability and this kind of stuff. I find her, because language is really important, and I find that the way that she communicates to be really, really down to earth, really easy for people to connect with and relate to and with. So it's not even so much a matter of whether you agree or don't agree, but just the way that you the way you communicate, the way she communicates. I mean,
Yes.
guys like Barack Obama and Nelson Mandela, these kind of people. I mean, I know they're big names, and some people will say, "Oh, that's obvious," but I think communication is so important, and the way you communicate and who you show up as you communicate, and your sort of your message and your agenda needs to be very, very, in my opinion, very human, very open, and very
Yes,
understanding.
definitely.
So it's not a kind of missionary thing where you have to do this, and I'm not trying to convince you of this. There's no
Mm,
convincing. I'm just offering you and showing you something or a concept or a principle or a way of life or whatever that people go through and suffer with every single day. I'm sharing that with you.
mm,
And these are a few ways to be more empathetic, to be more compassionate, to be less judgmental, to be less hard on yourself and on others. And that ability and that skill, the world needs, more of that every single day. So yeah, so people like that, have definitely,
absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. It's having that impact and being present in life as well. I mean, like you say, they're big names, but they're genuine. You can
yeah,
connect with them, though they're leaders. You can resonate with them, and that's what it's all about. It's that human connection, isn't it?
yeah. And and it's like, and this whole thing about not trying to convince anybody. It's not like I mean, of course, those
Mm,
guys, Barack Obama and some of these guys and Nelson Mandela, they were politicians and very political, running countries. But
mhm,
for me, when I heard them talk in certain areas, in certain platforms, it wasn't so much about the whole politics of it, or trying to get the vote, but actually talking about very human situations in a very human way, and a very accepting way, understanding that people have different experiences in life, and they come from different places with different cultures,
mm,
but with this sense of humanity, that we are all human beings together, and that you need to unify as human beings, and to be less separate is just like, yeah, it's very, very easy to understand and relate to. And if you make your and if what you're saying is easy to understand and relate to, then you can break down barriers
mhm.
so easily. You don't need to force anything. You just need to be very truthful.
Yeah, definitely. So, what resources do you recommend, tools, daily tips to anyone that wants to be more impactful and be more present in their lives and around them in their community?
Resources. I
What do
mean,
you recommend?
your biggest resource is yourself. you know, and
Hmm.
so this whole idea around self realization and focusing on spending some time recognizing and acknowledging what your thoughts are. What's your resident thought pattern every day? What's your habitual thought pattern every day? What's your habitual feeling every day? And if it's not something that is creating happiness or creating feelings of security or love, that you need to start to get yourself into a position or a place where you can start to engender more of the feelings
Mm,
that you want, within your own self. So whether it's having some sort of physical outlet, whether it's gardening, walking, stretching, sitting and breathing, cooking, doesn't matter what it is. But I think whatever you do, if you have this kind of idea in your mind that whatever I do to try to make it a spiritual practice, right? So even if you're going to
yes.
the gym, do it in a spiritual way. If you're connecting with your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or your friends, make it something that you're doing it wholly and lovingly. But and this whole thing about spirituality, because where the physical ends, the non-physical begins, and that non-physical sort of represents the spiritual. And if you do that, if you do whatever you do with that spiritual sort of approach, everything becomes more wholesome. And doors will start to open,
Mm,
emotions will start to flow. There's no set way, but just to be, I think everybody
yes.
should just be more open. But even with openness, is openness to what? So the awareness and consciousness is where it all starts. So you need to be aware and conscious as to what you are all about before you start to relate to yourself or to others in any way. You need to know what your inner narrative is, your inner dialogue is, what your thoughts and patterns are. And the only way to do that is to spend some time in nature or in some place quiet where you have a few moments to address you and be really truthful with yourself as to what's going on with you. And then and then start to engender that openness and that self-compassion, and just don't beat yourself up. I mean, whatever is there, it might be ugly, it may be toxic, it might make you quite sad, but just acknowledge it, but try not to waste any time in beating yourself up, because it adds just more onto your emotional burden that you don't need. So
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You've given us quite a lot of tips there. What is your biggest takeaway? What would you say is your biggest takeaway for the listeners?
My biggest takeaway on a daily basis is, I think it is about unity and harmony. Putting your hands together like this creates unity and harmony. And because there's no, I mean, we have two hands, two eyes. We have all of this duality in life where it's us, is me and you, us and them. And this whole concept of us and them and separateness, it leads to loneliness. It leads to, feelings of separation and discontent and depression and all of that. So creating more harmony within yourself, seeing yourself in others, and and creating more empathy and compassion within yourself and others is what I try to do every single day, because it just brings everyone under one, into one reality, into one sense of existence, one sense of consciousness, and realize that we are all part of the same creative creation process. As I said in my bio, that's what I was talking about. This creation and creative process that we all belong to as a global community, as a life. And life is to be celebrated. It is to be celebrated, and it is to be cherished and treasured and loved. Trying to put each other down and putting yourselves down and doing all of this negative, toxic, destructive stuff. I mean, it's understandable. We want to evolve past that.
Definitely. I love that. So where can the listeners find you online? What's your website?
So my website is just the usual www.michaelmayhee.co.uk. So I've got a website there just outlining a bit of my coaching and how to contact me. I have a presence on LinkedIn, not so much on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, I have an account there and whatnot, but most of my communication and connections are through my website and through LinkedIn. And my email address, michaelmayhee4@gmail.com. It's always a way to connect with me. And even though on my profile, on my website, on LinkedIn and all that, I specifically mention working with women. But I mean, I work with people, I just find that because I have a strong sense of justice and a value around balance and sort of righting wrongs, there's so much disparity in the world. I mean, there's no shortage of people who need support and help, regardless to what their age, color, race, or whatever is. So don't think that because any one of my listeners or people who interact with me see me focusing more on women, that I'm not saying no to anybody else. I'm just basically communicating with people who I generally and mostly work with. But there's no hard stop on helping anyone as long as I feel that I am qualified to do it. There are certain areas that I can't go into because I don't have the qualifications or the experience in, and I'll say that. But otherwise, there's no limit.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'll have all the links directly to you in the show notes. So anybody that wishes to get in touch, please do.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you for sharing your courageous, insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, you have helped so many others. Michael Mayhee.
Thank you, Anita. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for providing the platform and allowing me the opportunity to, as I said to you before, every time you tell your story or you talk about yourself, you say it in a different way. And I learn from even hearing myself say the same things. It never comes out the same way. So thanks for the opportunities. No. It's amazing.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So we are Create the Courage to be Fearless podcast. So what is your definition of courage?
My definition of courage: daring, just daring to speak your truth and to live your truth. That's it. Just daring to do it makes you a winner.